Hi everyone, I'm Celeste. Thanks for joining me today. Well, today I wanted to share with you some of my favorite autumnal things. I've got some books which to me scream autumn. I love autumn. It's my favorite season of the year, hands down. I love it when things start to turn chilly and it's time to dig the sweaters out of storage and all of your warm, woolly, cozy socks and the fluffy throw blankets and pillows. And I love the colors of autumn, the olives and the deep browns and the burnished coppers and oranges. I love taking long walks, and I love looking at the changing constellations in the sky at night. When you look up at the autumn sky, you can definitely sense the wheel of the year turning. And I just love seeing the animals and the harvest. The farm is right behind me here, so and the farm stalls are full of autumn produce. So it's just a wonderful time of year that I truly enjoy. Well, one book which is an absolute favorite of mine at this time of year is Agatha Christie's stories, and Autumn Chills is the latest addition to her seasonal crime short story collections. Now you'll find some old favorites in this collection, including 4 and 20 Blackbirds, The Murder in the Mews, The Witness for the Prosecution, and one that was a surprise for me, which I really enjoyed, was Tape Measure Murder, and that's a Miss Marple story. Now you can also listen to a dramatic reading of that story right here on YouTube. I want to say the actress's name is June Whitfield. If I'm wrong, I'll correct it right here. But I will place a link to that dramatic rendering of Tape Measure Murder down below so that you can check it out if you'd like to. But I have all of the other seasonal short stories collections, Midwinter Murders, Midsummer Mysteries, all of those, the Last Seance. So I had to get the Autumn Chills, right? You can't get some of them and not all of them. And then I also wanted to share a book with you which is really near and dear to my heart. That is Tasha Tudor's Heirloom Crafts. Now I'll try not to get this in the ring light too much, but you really need to see this. And that is the author and famed illustrator Tasha Tudor, by her fireplace and her spinning wheel, and it looks like she's working on a quilt there. And this is all about Tasha Tudor's Heirloom Crafts. It is a wonderful, wonderful book. I don't know if they still sell this one new. This is a vintage copy. You're probably going to have better luck on a website like eBay. But this is just marvelous. If you're looking for a cozy book to curl up with your cup of tea, and you enjoy crafts and you want to learn more about the world of Tasha Tudor, this is just marvelous. Let me share some of these photos with you. She lived on a farm, and it was called Cerridwen Cottage. And so the author and photographer visited her at Cerridwen Cottage to watch Tasha create the handmade items that are an integral part of her legendary 19th century lifestyle. Surrounded by authentic American antiques and collectibles, and using original tools and almost forgotten techniques, Tasha spins flax, dyes wool, and weaves on one of her 7 looms. She dips candles, makes soaps, and concocts herbal creams and lotion, harvests wood for making baskets and fruit for canning, presses cider, and dries herbs and flowers. To me, she is like a little witch that lives in the woods. I'm sorry about the shine on the book, but I hope you can see some of these photographs. It's just marvelous. Here she is with her hand-dyed yarns for knitting, which she dyed herself from natural herbs. Let me find some other ones for you here. Here she is peeling apples for a cobbler. And I believe there are some recipes in this book as well. Here she is dipping candles over a cauldron outside, somewhere in New England. It's just so cozy and so life-affirming, and it's a celebration of old-time craft knowledge and heirloom baking and food preparation and all of that. And I strongly, strongly recommend that you get yourself a copy of this book. Here she is working on some other crafts. Tasha Tudor's illustrations are timeless. They're among my favorite illustrations of children's books. And in fact, I have a copy of her illustrations for A Little Princess by Frances Hodgson Burnett. So Tasha Tudor's Heirloom Crafts, photographs by Richard Brown, text by Tovah Martin. See if you can get a copy of this. You will not be sorry. And speaking of witches and witchy things, with a practical application, I've also really been enjoying Alice Hoffman's Practical Magic. This is a book that's been around quite a while. In fact, this is the 25th anniversary edition. Now, I picked this up in a bookstore the other day, and I don't know if this is an actual autograph or if they all came that way and it's actually the same type as that, the ink, but it's really sort of hard to tell, but it may be signed, I don't know. And the other thing I love is that I bought 3 other books, but none of them have the same scent that this one has. If you smell this book, it smells like herbs and magic. It's very strange. It's a wonderful scent. It's like an old garden smell, if that's the only way I can put it. But anyway, this is the story of the Owen sisters. They live with their aunts, who are uncanny women, and the townsfolk come to their door for cures and balms and aid and love spells and potions and things like that. But the 2 children are orphans, so they go to live with their aunts, and they're sort of outcasts at school. The kids make fun of them. The girls' names are Jillian and Sally. They're alike in some ways and polarly opposite in others. And this is the story of them growing up, and then once they become adults, what happens to them as they drift away from their childhood home, and then what happens after that. So I'm truly, truly having such a wonderful time reading this. This was a recommendation from my sister. Now, as you know, I often shy away from more recent titles. Granted, it's 25 years old, but that's still recent for me, believe it or not. But I really am having a great time reading it. And I've been using these little paper leaves as bookmarks, which I think is kind of neat. I've found these down in one of my baskets in the basement where I keep paper crafting supplies. And for some reason, I have a package of leaves in all different hues and shades. So I have been using those as bookmarks. Just having fun with the whole autumn thing. So I would highly recommend this. I don't know what's going to happen yet, and no, I have never seen the movie. People rave about the movie. In fact, some people say the movie is better than the book, but since I'm really enjoying the book, I'm hoping the movie will be just amazing. So yeah, Practical Magic. And then, what else? This is a recommendation from another BookTube channel, and the name is escaping me right now. It's a mother and daughter. This is a marvelous book. It has touched my heart. I read a chapter of it every night before I go to sleep. It is October, October by Kacha Balin. And the cover illustration is by Angela Harding. Anyone who watches my channel knows what a nut I am about Angela Harding illustrations. This was the winner of an award called the Yodo Carnegie Medal. It's published by Bloomsbury. Feast your eyes on this beautiful foiled cover. And so this is the story of a little girl who lives with her father in a woods and has been raised semi-feral. The mother is out of the picture. She left them quite a while back. So the father has raised October by himself in the woods. And it describes the autumn fields and woods and the woodland creatures and everything, just in such wonderful poetic prose. I'm wondering if Kacha Balin is also a poet, because her lyric prose just sings. It's lovely. And so one day she and her father are out in the woods and they come across a dead owl. And there's a little orphaned owlet who is there. And the father does not want October to touch it. He said, let nature take its course. We all know what happens when your parents tell you to not touch something, what happens. So the story is what happens after that. I believe this is a sort of coming of age tale. And so far I am just absolutely loving it. If it keeps going in the direction that I'm hoping it will and is as lovely as it is right now reading it, it's probably going to become a seasonal favorite of mine. So October, October, it will just give you all of the autumn fields of the smoky woods and the colors of loden and rust and the moss under your feet and the owls in the trees and you know, stories around campfires of wolves and folk tales and folk magic and all of that. It's really autumnal. I highly recommend it. And then this book is one I picked up recently at a place called Savers, which is kind of not a flea market, but kind of like a Goodwill store. And when you shop there, the proceeds go to a charity to assist people. And this is a classic, but I know very little about it. I've never read it. It is Lly Willows by Sylvia Townsend Warner. And this is just a gorgeous fallish cover. You can see the tree there and the beautiful grays and greens and browns and the cat sitting on the branch there. And this was the very first book published by the Book of the Month Club. And so this is a special Book of the Month Club commemorative edition. I think I paid $2.99 for this hardcover, and it's in very good shape. And what's interesting, well, okay, so it was published or came out in 1926. It tells the story of an unmarried woman who refuses to conform to the life that her family and society expect her to live, a bold and beguiling tale about personal freedom, uneasy friendships, and witchcraft. Lly Willows remains as relevant and entertaining today as it was when originally published more than 90 years ago. And I have a quote from this book. I was reading some blogs online, some literary blogs, and one writer online said that Lly Willows is a super book to read in the autumn. She says, it's a book I always associate with autumn. This is a website called Topaz Literary. It's a book I always associate with autumn, although the story cycles through all of the seasons. and describes them in glorious and unpredictable ways. But there's something earthy and eerie and quite literally witchy about Lly Willows. Let me give you a taste. Laura looked at the bottled fruits, the sliced pears in syrup, the glistening red plums, the green gages. She thought of the woman who had filled those jars and fastened on the bladders, perhaps the greengrocer's mother living in the country, a solitary old woman, picking fruit in a darkening orchard, rubbing her rough fingertips over the smooth-skinned plums, a lean, wiry old woman standing with upstretched arms among her fruit trees, as though she were a tree herself, growing out of the long grass with arms stretched up like branches. Isn't that just marvelous? That is witchy to me in a very natural sense. A woman in a fruit orchard praising the autumn with her arms outstretched like the branches of a gnarled tree. So yeah, I know very little about Lly Willows. I don't know if I'll like the story, but I sure love that description, and I love this cover, and for the amount of money that they were asking for this book, I couldn't resist. Two more very autumnal, sort of witchy, folksy, foresty things that I've been enjoying these past few weeks. One is Flower Fairies of the Autumn, and that is by Cicely M. Barker. And this is part of the Flower Fairies set of books that I have from Blackie, London, and Glasgow. And this is just, of course, charming. Here's, for example, the Blackberry Fairy. So each page has a little flora or fauna fairy, and then next to it a poem or a song. So I love setting out these seasonal editions. I have all of them, and they're just charming. And then additionally, I am super excited about this. It's just gorgeous. This is a set of cards. It's called an oracle deck. 52 card oracle deck and guidebook, Woodland Wardens. And the illustrator is Jessica Roux. And Jessica Roux, if the name sounds familiar to you, she was the writer and illustrator of Floriography, which is about the meanings of Victorian flowers. So it's like the language of flowers, but she had a very popular book called Floriography. Let me just open this box and I'll share some of these images with you because they're just gorgeous. And most of them are animals that I could find in our area here by the farm and the woods. So it comes with this little booklet. And then these are the cards. And I'm just going to hold some of them up for you. So this one is the mouse and the buttercup. They're just adorable. The cat and lavender. So each one is a woodland warden or animal, and then some type of flora or fauna. The spider and passion flower. And I drew a card today, which I'll share with you. Oh, here's the hare and the oak. And each of them is supposed to have a sort of different meaning that you can meditate on. The sheep and blackberry. The one that I selected today was the chipmunk and laurel. How adorable is this? And it is particularly meaningful to me because I have befriended 4 different chipmunks that live under my porch and come to my back patio right here every morning and every evening. And yes, I feed them. They're all named Chip. And I've learned so much from observing them. They're all independent chipmunks, but at the same time, they do play together. They do protect their territories. They each get their own little pile of seeds and feeds. And of course, I have bird feeders out there as well. And I've been listening to the different chirps and chirrups that they make in different situations and figuring out what that might mean. They're very tame. They come right up to me. They sometimes sit under my chair when I'm reading out there, although it's getting a little too chilly to read now. But anyway, so I thought it was very appropriate that that's the card I first drew from this pack. And I don't really use these in the sense of tarot per se. I don't know much about that. I did used to have a set of Norse rune stones, and for me they're just sort of like the pages of a beautifully illustrated children's book. And you know, that's literally sort of what they are. And what you're doing is just thinking about a different animal or flower or tree in nature, and then just meditating, you know, thinking of different applications in your own life and what it might mean, and sort of in the same way you would write a poem, right? You're associating images with greater meanings. So it's such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful deck. Here's the boar and pumpkin. I love that one. So they're very fallish, very folksy, just beautiful. So do check those out. Here's another one. I absolutely love them. Very fallish, very cozy, and I might even put some up on my shelf here as a sort of decoration. I have 4 more books to share with you today, and one of them is actually my son's book. It's a book we read every year in the autumn together, speaking of animals, and that is A Dark, Dark Tale, and that is by Ruth Brown. This is such a wonderful, brief little illustrated book. It doesn't have much writing on each page, but the illustrations are absolutely marvelous. I'll just start it out with you to give you a taste of it. So here's the cover page, A Dark, Dark Tale. And then look at this illustration. Once upon a time, there was a dark, dark moor. Look at the owl on there. On the moor, there was a dark, dark wood. It goes on from there. It's sort of cumulative. In the woods, there was a dark, dark house. And so the story progresses as you go into the house and go upstairs and find out what's there. It's really, really sweet, and it's a sort of haunted, but not very haunted, first tale for young readers and adults. I love this story myself, and I love watching the video from Weston Woods as well, because the narrator tells it really well. He's got a very deep voice, and he builds the suspense wonderfully as he tells this story. So that's a great one if you have a younger reader in your household or someone who's young at heart. And then I also have some books which are also on sort of autumn, woodsy, folksy, autumnal topics. One is The Little Book of Mushrooms, an illustrated guide to the extraordinary power of mushrooms by Alex Dorr. And it's illustrated by Sarah Richard. This was a book that I found at Barnes & Noble, and it was in a section titled Books for Book Lovers. It is such a marvelous little book. Who knew I'd be this interested in fungi and mushrooms? But it's with beautiful illustrations, and it goes through lots and lots of different mushrooms. Now, if you're looking to forage for mushrooms and you want to know what they look like and know which ones are safe to collect and eat and all of that and harvest, You might not want to use this as your go-to reference because it is illustrated with sort of fanciful paintings, I think they are. But in terms of lore, it's really just fascinating. And you can just sort of keep it on your bedside table and read it here and there. So for example, this gorgeous, gorgeous illustration shows us jack-o'-lantern mushrooms, and it gives you all kinds of facts about them. They're all bright orange. Lookalikes can include chicken of the woods and chanterelles. And then there's one called jelly babies, the indigo milky caps, oh my goodness, devil's fingers, which I think is very interesting, death caps, destroying angels, basket stinkhorns. This one is the morel. I love morel mushrooms in an omelet. Julia Child has a fantastic recipe for an omelet with morel mushrooms. You must try it. So it's just a really cool introduction to the mysterious world of fungi, and what better time to investigate that than fall. Another book on a similar subject is Wicked Plants, The Weed That Killed Lincoln's Mother and Other Botanical Atrocities by Amy Stewart. I love that green cover. That attracted me to this. And so this talks about all different kinds of plants, the devil's bartender, ergot, which they used to use for migraines, and I'm a migraine sufferer, so I know they used to use ergot in ergotamine. And then they separated into categories like destructive, deadly, intoxicating, illegal, painful, medicinal. They warn you which ones to keep away from your pets. So this is just a really interesting little reference book to also keep on your bedside table. I also have picked up this book, The Book of the Barn Owl by Sally Coulthard. I love Sally Coulthard's little reference books. They're quite small and easy to fit in the hand, and they have sort of just bookboard covers. It's kind of interesting. You can see the cardboard on the edge there. But in a prior video, I think last year at this time, I may have showed you one, The Book of the Earthworm, also by Sally Coulthard. She has many, many of these little reference guides, and I just love the art. And so these are just little compendiums of facts, in this case about barn owls. Their mating cycles, their distribution across the country, where they like to roost, nesting, giving birth, their eggs, their offspring. So there's the little barn owl babies. And in fact, in the October book, which I had showed you earlier, this one, I think it's a barn owl, if I'm not mistaken. But yes, if you look at it, because it says the face is like an apple, a little half apple or a heart. So I think that's a barn owl. But anyway, if you were ever interested in learning about barn owls and how to save them and how to protect their habitats and all of that, go no further than The Book of the Barn Owl by Sally Coulthard. And finally, my son and I were just out taking an evening walk the other night, and we always pass by a little free library book box at the park, and more often than not I put books to give away in the book box, but this particular time I could not resist this, and I think it was just synchronicity that placed it there for me right before I was going to do this sort of autumn haul. This is A Wrinkle in Time journal. So I'm sure you've heard of A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle. It's a favorite childhood book of mine. It's very witchy, and it's a wonderful, wonderful sort of sci-fi story. And this is not the actual book, but it is a journal to write down your thoughts. And it contains some little illustrations from the book. Let me see if I can find, oh, look at this one. Is that not wonderful? And so I don't know what I'm going to use it for yet. I may place some little quotes or poems, or maybe write a story of my own. But I just love it. I love how it lies flat. I love the fact that it's lined. I like the size of it. And look at the cover illustration. I mean, it's gorgeous. They actually had all of the hardcovers in the free library. The series, the Madeleine L'Engle Wrinkle in Time series. I did not take those because I already have copies of my own, and not only that, but I really think that those should go to a little girl or a little boy who happens upon them. What a coup that would be. But the journal was sort of tucked in the back behind all the other books, and I just couldn't resist it. So yeah, I love it. Love it, love it. In any event, that's everything I have for today. I hope you're enjoying the cooler weather wherever you are, unless it's summer for you, where it may, or spring, I think it would be in some parts of the world. But I'm certainly enjoying the autumn as it progresses. I'm looking forward to more vlogs that I plan to make this month. But for right now, I'm going to dig in with some of these lovely, lovely stories, and my cinnamon tea, and my Reynard the Fox mug, and my beeswax candles, and everything else. So until I see you again, have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.